First off, I made a 4x6 grid with inch-wide squares on both my drawing paper and on my reference photo to help with proportions. Then I sketched the outlines of the band members lightly with a mechanical pencil. Now I'm using a Prismacolor Graphite pencil in the shade 8B and filling in all the darkest areas of the picture. These areas will be almost black since HB is a dark bold shade and I'm pressing down hard. I'm pressing more lightly in areas that I want highlighted, like the brim of his hat. Now I'm moving on to the hair using a 6B graphite pencil. This will be roughly as dark as the 8B, but the tip of the pencil is harder, making it easier to get detail around the face. Here I'm feathering out that 6B, so when I move on to a lighter shade, the transition will be more seamlessly blended. For this band member's hair, I'm using 8B again because there aren't a lot of details, it's mostly solid black. For his glasses, I'm using 6B, but I made sure to sharpen the tip to a very fine point so that the lines creating the glasses are sharp. I'm also leaving some small areas blank to look like reflections. Now I'm using that same pencil to fill in his shirt. I'm now starting on the band member's facial hair using 8B. I will be layering many different shades to create the hair, but this is just my base. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's just the initial dark tones. To feather out the edges a bit more and define the hairs, I'm going over the same areas using 2B. This is somewhat of a transition between the dark hair and the skin. This particular band member has more scraggly, scruffy hair, so I'm using a technique called stippling, which is basically making small dots with the pencil rather than crisp lines. But remember with all facial hair to keep the pattern and direction of the hairs somewhat random. To finish the beards and blend them nicely into the skin, I'm using the same techniques as before, but using a 0.5 mechanical pencil, which gives us the most precision. As the beard fades into the neck and face, remember to increase the spacing between the hairs. I will also be using the mechanical pencil to define the band member's hair and eyebrows, using quick individual strokes to best resemble hair strands. I'm also leaving some areas blank or lighter to give the hair a sheen and highlight. And don't forget to add some flyaway hairs to make it more natural. I'm now using the shade F to begin shading in the faces. This is used in areas that have light shadows, like the hairline and hollows of the cheeks. I'll define darker areas later. Now I'm using a 2B to shade darker areas, such as around his nose and nostrils. I'm now shading in the other men's faces using both the F and 2B where needed. When shading the face, I want to use lighter shades like F as much as possible to make the skin look the most natural. We don't want harsh cartoon-like lines, we want softly defined features. After shading the skin, I'm filling in the creases of their mouths using a 2B pencil. I didn't include the footage of me shading all the band members' skin because it was all very similar and straightforward. Now we get to start on the eyes. I will be using only a mechanical pencil for this. I'm starting off by filling in the darkest areas and then doing the details and lighter areas afterward, not pressing as hard. We want to make the lines very clean and crisp because they are the focal point of the face. Shadows under the folds of his shirt, just softly, nothing too harsh. It's time starting small with an 8941 grade Tortillion and will work my way up. Don't overblend detailed areas or your hard work will be gone. Concentrated on the skin mostly. For the face, I'm using the next size up, which is 8942. I'm also using that same Tortillion on the hair and hat. As with the eyes, don't blend the hair too much or you will lose definition. Standard size 8943 Tortillion for the clothing, which is so dark it barely needs blending, but I will include this step anyway. To finish the blending, I'm taking a Q-tip and rubbing over areas that I want blended even more, like the skin and the two white shirts. This makes it look so much more natural and smooth. After the blending is done, I'm moving on to highlighting. I'm using an eraser pen to stipple the beards, hair, and any other areas of the picture I want to be lighter in areas. This can make it appear that light is hitting certain strands of hair or a certain fold in fabric and makes the contrast between shades pop as they would in real life when hit by light. Then to complete the piece, I'm going over the erased areas with a white charcoal pencil, which will actually reflect light and give the work a more finished and polished look. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I really appreciate your support.